One, it's a wacky anime with a fear. Here to present you with What If Issei Became Alastor, Part 1. Let's go ahead and get into it. Currently, Issei Hyodo has his Kuoh outfit on, but something's different. The Kuoh outfit is completely pitch red and has a completely black tie. His hair is completely different. It's styled differently. Not to mention it's completely red with black tips. And his eyes are, well, both completely pure red. He immediately gets on his uniform, walking down the stairs. Immediately when he does, he sees Garo and Miki Hyodo sitting at the table eating breakfast and having a third plate for him. Immediately walks towards the table, sits down, and starts eating, while Garo asks him a question. So, Issei, what have you, done exactly? While asking this and being quite scared about what his answer might be, while Issei says, just had some fun, he says with a slight sinister smile forming. An unnerving smile towards Garo, because it still reminds him of the one entity that he made that deal with. That him and Miki both made that damned deal with. While Miki asks, what do you mean by fun? As he says, nothing, just watching people rise from the ashes, he says with a smile, which symbolizes a normal smile, actually. While she says, oh, that's wonderful, sweetheart. While he says, before they fall into the pits of failure, he says, with that sinister smile, also sinister smile returning, and his eyes just completely glowing red. As Miki says, oh, alright, sweetie, as she starts to get a little bit scared. But Issei says, oh, it seems I already finished. As they both look down and see he's already finished his breakfast and already drunk his orange juice. Immediately he gets up, saying, I'll see you later, mother and father, but I have to go. As he says this, he all of a sudden walks towards the door, opens it, closes it behind him, and locks it. Right when he's walking away, he immediately thinks in his head, what chaos can I cause today at this new school? He says before grinning. He's currently walking towards Kuoh. Right when he walks towards Kuoh, he immediately walks through the front gate, only to be stared at by all the females, all of them blushing, staring at him. And all the guys are staring at him in jealousy or envy, seeing how he's so attractive. And one of them screams out, just another Kiba, while another one says, hey, he might not just be another Kiba, while Issei just starts to walk and ignore them, walking into the building, going up the stairs, and knocking on the door towards his new classroom, waiting for the teacher to introduce him. As soon as the teacher introduces him, the teacher ends up saying, Issei Alastor Hyodo, you can come on in. While Issei opens the door and says, you can just call me Alastor, he says, with a sly grin. And as that sly grin appeared on his face, as soon as he said the word Alastor, two very specific people in class jumped a little bit, hearing about old stories about a certain demon named Alastor. But it couldn't be him, right? As Issei walks up to the front of the class and is told to introduce himself, he says, my name is Issei Alastor Hyodo, and I have actually managed to move here from my previous school after a few unfortunate incidences occurred in that school. So many fatalities, he says, as he smiles ever so slightly. They all say, oh, that's so bad. While Issei says, I know, right? And he has a false frown, as on the inside he says, oh, all those people's lives ruined, he says with a smile on the inside. And he almost feels like he's going to laugh out hysterically, but he doesn't. As he looks towards the class, and they all raise their hands, and he picks a few people to answer some questions. One girl says, are you single? while he says, "Yes, but I'm not looking out to mingle," he says, as she slumps down and half the girls' hands are all the way back downwards. And one of them still has their hands raised, and it's a guy in the class. The unknown guy says, "Hey, so what can you do? Is there anything unique you can do?" While Alastor says, nothing much that I can think about. I mean, except for a few specialties," he says, with a grin still ever so present. And he asks, "So what can you do, my feminine fellow?" As he sees the guy who has quite the questionable outfit on, and the guy says, "I can suck your dick." And immediately he still has a smile, and then it just falters for a little bit, and then he like appears in front of him and says, starts laughing, "No," and then just appears right back in the front of the classroom. And none of them saw him move, and they're starting to question things, but Issei says, "So, next question." One person in the back immediately raised their hand, and Issei says, "Final question," and said girl with white hair asks, "So, your middle name was Alastor, right? Are you, by any chance, have any relatives by chance?" And Issei says, "I just have my mother and father. I'm an only child, after all," he says, with a smile still present, never faltering even a single moment, unnerving some people, but making some girls squeal, thinking he's just a really friendly guy. If only they knew what was behind that smile. As Koniko asked that question, and Issei walked all the way towards the seat that the teacher pointed him towards, which was right behind the white-haired teen. Right when he sits down, he looks at her and says, "Hello there, what's your name?" he says. She says, "My name's Koniko." And Issei says, "My name's Issei Alastor Hyodo, but I'd prefer if you just call me Alastor, my dear," as he puts his hand out for a handshake. As soon as he does this, she grabs onto his hand. Right when she does, she feels as if a demonic presence is being released, as Issei has this aura around him, and some demonic symbols are appearing beside him. And he says, "It's a pleasure to meet you," as he tilts his head to the side, doing his smile that was still on his face, but stretching out even wider than his face can hold, scaring the absolute crap out of Koniko, scaring the absolute shit out of her, and absolutely petrifying her to where she immediately jumps up onto her desk and accidentally jumps all the way up to the ceiling and holds on to the ceiling fan in class, and is just like up there like a stray cat. As Alastor says, "It seems that she got stuck up there. Can someone help get the stray cat up from in there?" While the teacher and all the people in the room laugh a little bit before the teacher gets a little ladder and literally just goes upwards on the little ladder and just picks up Koniko and gets her directly out of the fan, because she's like clinging onto it for dear life. And it took like 5 pulls for the teacher to finally pull her off the fan, but also ended up breaking the fan, and said fan hit the teacher in the head, causing him to fall down and have a concussion and being out for the rest of the day, while Koniko was on the ground still in a panic, since when she saw those symbols in that demonic aura, it was 5 times larger than anything she's ever sensed, and it was overloading her senses. Time skip. Currently, it's after class. Issei is walking towards the cafeteria. While he's walking towards the cafeteria, he immediately sees the lunch ladies literally giving everyone the same exact food, but he sees something that catches his attention. He sees jambalaya, and he immediately starts to cheer up a lot, like his smile is grinning even more, to where everyone saw it literally leaving his face, and they were just like avoiding him. They're just like walking away, because that's like very, very, very creepy. As he runs up towards the line, just literally blitzing everyone in the line, and getting his tray and saying, "I'd like the jambalaya, please." Immediately getting jambalaya onto his plate, and just disappearing. Like, immediately as soon as he got the jambalaya, he was just gone from the cafeteria. They all saw him one moment, he disappeared. One person said, "Hey, he did the magic trick my dad did when I was 5. Well, a guy says, "Oh, that's nice, Jeremy. That's nice." As he pats him on the back, as Jeremy just starts to cry a little bit. POV change. Currently, Issei is sitting in front of a tree, eating his jambalaya. As soon as he takes the first bite, he says, "This ain't no jambalaya." And he just starts screaming in his head, "My dead grandma can do better than this." As he immediately just spits out the jambalaya and says, "This is a major disappointment." He immediately starts to rush back into the cafeteria, going all the way towards the cafeteria staff. Literally says, "You call this jambalaya?" as he points towards his jambalaya, and says, "I call this death. I call this absolute death. This ain't no jambalaya. This jambalaya cold. This ain't no good at all." As he literally walks up towards the head honcho in the cafeteria and literally dumps the jambalaya onto their face, and it just completely burns their face. And she says, "Why would you do such a thing?" And he says, "Why would you make this shit?" And he says, "I'm gonna go ahead and take over your job." He walks back there, puts on a hairnet, and just starts making jambalaya. And right when he makes the jambalaya, he immediately starts to serve everyone in the cafeteria that specific jambalaya, and puts a jambalaya for him, some jambalaya on the side for himself. They all love the jambalaya a lot better than what the cafeteria lady did. And as soon as some people walked up towards him and asked, "What did you put in the jambalaya make it so good?" While Issei says, "Oh, trust me, you don't want to know." With the same unnerving smile. And he says, I would like to know," while he starts to sweat drop. And Issei says, "Would you believe me if I said I put humans in it?" While he says, "No, there's no way you did. You didn't, right?" You can't actually tell if Issei's joking. He says, "Of course I didn't. I was just a joke. I just added some spice and everything nice. That's all I did." And he immediately said, "Oh, okay. I'll see you later, Alastor." As he walks away from him, still feeling very unnerved about this new student. As Issei just runs all the way towards the soul tree, sits down towards it, and starts eating his jambalaya. And he says in his head, "Adding people towards it was a very good idea." As he says this in his head, he almost says it out loud. And right when he says it out loud, all of a sudden, you see a person next to him have eyes widen as he said, adding human flesh towards us would made this jambalaya definitely pop out." As you look towards the side and just sees Koniko with like eyes wide as saucers, actually was eating the jambalaya, had the jambalaya in her mouth, and spit it out. And just started dumping the jambalaya away and just started running, saying, "I didn't eat it. I shouldn't have eaten it. I knew it." As Issei just starts laughing, thinking, "Oh my god." That was hilarious. While Koniko's running, she just literally starts crawling up a tree. And Issei just says, "She reminds me so much of a cat." And today was a short day, so after lunch, everyone was going home. As soon as everyone was going home, Issei immediately started to walk toward outside the school before feeling as if someone's staring at him, before thinking it must be the Grimmeries. He says with his ever-so smile still present, looking behind him directly towards the ORC room, looking all the way through the trees that are covering it, all the way into the room, staring directly at Rias, Grimmery, which made her shocked to where she ended up literally jumping backwards, not expecting for a human to stare directly through towards her, directly in the eyes, and actually notice that she was staring. This isn't a normal human, she thinks in her head. While Issei just chuckles, seeing that she scared the young Grimmery with just a stare, and he says, "I still get it." As he snaps his fingers after he leaves a good distance away, and all of a sudden teleports directly outside of his house. He opens the door, walks in, goes up the stairs, and immediately goes into his room, looking at his radio, his mic, and goes right on the radio with his talk show he has. And that's What If Issei Became Alastor Part 1. I hope you all enjoyed.